Right, and finally, let's talk about the fight back for women's sports. So there's been, across the sporting world really, lots of different women's groups have been refusing to play, been boycotting certain sports and competitions where men have been allowed under so-called trans inclusion rules. Now, probably most notably, in the past week or so, there's been lots of 4 teams in Sheffield have decided to boycott their league because a transgender player who essentially meted out a career-ending or season-ending injury has been allowed to play. And Candice, what have you made about this? Surely it's about time that people boycotted this.
I think, yes, absolutely. I think it's the only option women have left now. I mean, you can't rely on these institutional bodies to be sensible and to actually just implement fair policies that I think most people would agree are totally reasonable. I think it's individual sportswomen are just going to have to say, no, I will not compete against a man in a competition where he could hit me in the face and injure me. I'm not doing it. But I do find it sad, though, that they have to do this, that they're being forced to take these positions. I can't believe we've got to this point. And I just hope that now, like, these sporting bodies will start paying attention and stop forcing women to do this and stop forcing women into the position where they feel they have to choose between what they've worked for their entire lives and this just bizarre idea that men can suddenly magically become women. It's ridiculous.
Tom, I mean, a lot of the conversation about women's sports is centered around fairness, which is understandable, you know, the inherent strength of being a man versus being a woman. But we've also seen a lot of cases where sort of safety is coming into play, not just this example of a woman who's injured by a trans footballer, but also, you know, they've been allowing men to compete in women's boxing matches and things like that. It just seems to beg a belief almost.
That was another one of the boycotts of recent weeks. You've had women boxers pull out of bouts against men, against biological males. And that was actually one of the earliest, funnily enough, sort of trans sport controversies that really went viral in relation to contact sports, because it was the Fallon Fox controversy.
Yeah, who's an
MMA fighter, you know, kind of no holds barred, you know, fighting competitions, where you had essentially a situation where, in the name of progress and inclusion and being a good person, you were supposed to applaud a man punching a woman in the face. This is ridiculous, and I really think this is where most people get off. You know, in terms of the supposed inclusivity train. You know, if you're in a situation in which you're supposed to applaud this kind of thing, ignore the questions not just of fairness, as you say, but just sort of basic safety. It's the point in which, you know, the rubber really hits the road. And I think it's something that it's interesting that it's happening in grassroots sports as well as just the kind of top level, the level of the commentariat and so on. I think that's a very welcome development, because no one benefits from going down this particular road. And as many very courageous campaigners in this space have made clear, if you allow this faux inclusion to become the kind of guiding principle of sports, women's sports as it currently exists will cease to exist. I mean, it would completely blow so many kind of female competitors who've been working their entire lives out of the water. There have been so many cases already of people deprived their place on the podium or deprived their gold medal because of the fact that an individual who was notedly average when competing in the male category suddenly jumps into the female categories and is breaking records left, right and centre. It is obvious to anyone that this cannot go on. And we're starting to see that. Then the question is, how long will it take for that to be accepted? Because it's taken quite a while for athletics and swimming and cycling to change their policies on this. I think the FA are now kind of, the gears are slowly grinding about how they're going to try and respond. But it can't come soon enough.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember Fallon Fox won, I mean, in brutal knockouts, but then in the final lost to a very skilled fighter, because actually Fallon Fox was not that skilled, he had basically been able to rely on his superior strength. And when he actually came up against someone who was really good at what they did, he lost. But it just goes to show, you know, I mean, women who are brilliant at these sports will suddenly just get usurped by someone who can just come in with superior strength, and it's wrong.
Yeah, and it seems, and Candice, you're quite rightly using what I'd say the correct pronouns.
Yeah.
But a lot of this does seem to be, a lot of the confusion just seems to stem from the language that we use, I think. You know, if you say quite bluntly, should a man be allowed to, in a boxing ring with a woman, people would say no. But when you say, should a transgender woman be allowed? That creates confusion.
No.
There's all these debates over, how much testosterone or
which is
not someone should have, which is irrelevant, whether they should have gone through male puberty or not, all these things. When if you were just straightforward with your language and were able to say, this is a man, this is a woman, then we wouldn't be having these ridiculous arguments.
Exactly. I mean, I think the only one that really confuses me is poor old Caster Semenya, who has only ever been raised as a woman and only ever knows herself to be a woman. But it's so true. We should be able to speak clearly about sex. And I can't believe we've arrived at this situation where we can't do that. And we have to and we create our reality through language.
Yeah.
So if we can't say that is a man, we start qualifying it and calling it a transgender woman, then we confuse ourselves about the reality of the situation.